saved my life. Not really, but somebody was probably there and immediately the podcast ended. Okay, underground. Let's see here. Let's put you in the back of the binder. This is happening. I am organizing my Pokemon card collection. This is going to probably be happening throughout the entirety of the thing, by the way. So if I'm quiet for a long period of time, I'm not dead.
I just assume you're masturbating.
I mean, some people probably consider card collecting a form of masturbation.
I know I do.
The more I hang out with you, the more I learn, and the scarier I become.
No, you don't.
Or should I say, the more afraid I become? I used the wrong word there, verbiage.
You know I'm harmless.
We'll just wait a little bit
you
longer
ever
and see if
legitimately been
people
worried about-
see this is happening, and then we'll start. What?
You ever legitimately been worried about anything related to me?
For your sleeping problems, I mean, but other than that,
Yeah.
what energy is this? I guess I'll leave here. There's no point. In case there's anybody here listening, we're not starting yet until we have a few more people come in. So there'll probably not much be happening right now. I apologize if you come here to listen to a podcast. It'll just be a little bit longer. I apologize in advance.
That's what she said. Just a little bit longer.
If that's what she says, you might have a problem.
Why?
She's clearly not satisfied.
She's like, baby, just a little bit longer.
Do I have roller skates in here? Or did I say that? Oh wait, is that the card I was looking for? I'm blind as a bat. So is there, I guess, anything you enjoyed about the episodes you watched so far? I mean, not really going too much into depth, but I guess while we're waiting here, just talk about something informative.
I like the foot fetish stuff around Miss Maiden and her spiky shoes. Without going too into depth.
I don't know where foot fetish comes from that, but
Just walk around with those like torture, bondage, BDSM spiky shoes on.
that was just her trying to get stronger. She was putting herself near death 100% of the time.
Isn't that kind of hot?
No, not really.
Why
I mean,
not?
I'm not into having sex with dead bodies.
What?
That's all that came off to me there. It's like, I'm not into that.
Dead bodies.
Yeah, Raphael, she's doing that. Like, essentially, she's like a walking dead body. Is what that is. She's like
No.
almost like a zombie.
No. She's not trying to do a zombie thing at all.
She's killing herself and to bring herself back to life. What about that is not a zombie?
No, she's like an edgelord.
What the heck? Oh, never mind. I thought I had two SIM cards in two pockets. Sorry, no. Like I completely like cut off all brain cells to what you're talking about, and I was busy in my in in my card collection binder. Like, that's gonna happen a lot here. I will
Oh, I'm
be
glad
here.
to know it.
I will be present, but at the same time, I might actually stop being present
Glad
for.
to know I worked so hard to make my notes and everything so that you could just be like, cottage cheese.
Fun fact: I never had cottage cheese.
Not really the point though.
That's the point I'm making.
French toast.
I haven't had French toast in a while. Maybe they changed that. Okay, I guess with that, we're probably just gonna, start off the podcast. Well,
Hey, we're back, everybody. This is Jeremy and my co-host Jacques. We're doing Shaman King episode 23. It's called All Might's Return. And we're going to talk about All Might and how Shaman King could beat All Might in a fight in arm wrestling and in rock, paper, scissors any day of the week, but that Vegeta is the best Saiyan of all time. Take it away, Jacques.
where the heck is the slowpoke in here? Are you done on your little tangent there? I just let you have it there. I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna just, as he's doing that, I'm just gonna do my thing in the background.
Oh, good.
That sounds very out of context, but okay.
I didn't know you felt that way about me, but I'm glad that you like my voice.
Hey everybody, this is the Anime4ALL podcast. We're gonna actually be doing a little bit something different here. Fortunately, because of technical difficulties on our end, not the end of the podcast, because I kept on re-listening and there was no issues. It was just, for whatever reason, Discord was hating me, and also the internet. A very interesting combination of both. We're going to be reviewing episodes 39 through 41, because we didn't review episode 39 last 2 weeks ago by this point. So with that, we're going to jump right into 39, because we were about to, and then we couldn't. So, I guess this brings up the speed, episode 39, called The Summit. Yo and Lyserk defeat Lucius, during which they learn that Marco and Lucius passed together. Wait. That doesn't sound right.
What?
I thought that was episode 38.
No, 38 was... Hang on, 40... 41 to 42. We're doing 40, Jeremy. Humility, episode 40.
Alright, I did watch the right episodes. Okay, that's what I was. Jeez. Pardon me, I'm drunk. Don't mind me. Okay, my taxes are definitely accepted. Hallelujah. I can that can be that's one less thing I have to worry about tonight. Okay, episode 40. I see 41 and I see 42, but I don't see 40.
Page 9, Jeremy. The summary of Shaman King episode 40. Ren's team develops new oversouls that can move on its own, forcing Yo's team to escape and prepare to get stronger. Gandhara's faction is defeated, but Santi is satisfied, revealing that she has been working with Yoon in order to find 5 mentally neutral fighters. Meanwhile, Hao's faction and former ex-laws prepare for new plans.
Okay, I have a problem with her finding 5 mentally neutral fighters. Some of them are not mentally neutral.
No, definitely not. But
Well,
that's what the summary
I guess we'll talk about that.
was.
Huh?
That's what Wikipedia's summary was, and they probably took the summary from like the TV Guide summary because they wouldn't write it from scratch.
Unfortunately for some of us, that's me. I don't remember much about episode 40, so we're gonna go strictly off of Jock's notes because he was very proud of these things. So if I
Can you
get
please
anything,
stop making me sound like a proud 4-year-old that just drew a coloring for the refrigerator?
if I get anything wrong here, blame him.
Oh my god.
So I guess we're just gonna go off of this general summary. I do remember that a revelation has happened. It happens at the end of this episode where we found out that Horror Hero's real name, and I think it's here somewhere. I think you wrote it down. Shoot.
Naruto.
No. Yusui
Orochimaru's real name.
Usui Horoku. I don't even know how to pronounce this. I think it's like Usui is what his real first name is. But other than that, like that's not much. I don't remember much else other than that. It looks like there is talks of the four types of Buddha. I am very numbers are not my friend today.
There are 4 different types of Buddhas. There's Tathagatas, and Bodhisattvas, the Wisdom Kings, and Devas. The Wisdom Kings are unique of the 4 types because they're the only type that's allowed to use force. The other types are forbidden to use force, which makes them inappropriate for like a contest like this.
Well, I mean, I think the entire thing, like, they shouldn't be here because they don't like being involved in fight. I can't even watch the episode just to see if I can. It's not even let me. Okay, there we go. Hallelujah. Okay, so at the very beginning of the episode, we see Yo and Ryu talking as we're seeing the fight with Team Ren happening, and to coincide with what Jock said, that the 4 Wisdom Kings, we have a couple of Wisdom Kings here in the fight with Ren. Oh wait, they're not even at the tournament here. What the heck? That was very.
At the what?
They're not even at the tournament right now at the very beginning of the episode.
No, but the episode at the beginning, like, is like the opening of it, right, where they do the dramatic opening. But like at 2 minutes, the episode actually begins, and then like things are pretty much rolling at that point.
Oh, that's where the types of books come from. Like Ryu ends up like apparently being the smart one here, and he describes the types of Buddhas and I guess in the religion that they practice here. Ren is the opponent. Oh, that's right. Ren decides that he wants to be well, because the best way to put this, he wants to be the one. He wants to be the guy. He acts a lot like Vegeta here. But unlike Vegeta, actually wins. Sorry. I have
Sick burn on him.
I have a problem with Vegeta getting into fights and never winning anything.
For Vegeta.
But before he gets to that point, like he ends up fighting this guy with the hands. What I found really weird though here is, I guess so far I think all of them probably have a mana neutralization technique, where well, spirit or whatever, when this attack comes at them, they can just completely evaporate it. And usually Ren does not find this disturbing. All he really says, you're just a stepping stone on my path to becoming Shaman King. Again, another very Vegeta-like trait. The opponent doesn't seem all that concerned that Ren isn't concerned that his abilities are neutralizing each other out. They're colliding and nothing's happening. It's a very weird. I don't know how to put it. Like, it's very weird. Like I guess mana neutralization. Because I don't think we've seen that up until now. I want to say.
No, we haven't seen anything like that up until now. I don't know if I go so far as to call it very weird, but like it's surprising to see the impact of it. Like it seems effortless, and it seems like they can do it boundlessly, which is strange. Like the implication is that they can do it entirely without a sense of fatigue, and you're just like, dude, really? Like that's the idea, that like you're never going to be tired of doing this. Like you can do this forever and still put out your own mana. And I didn't know how I felt about that. Did you?
No, I didn't get that. I just got the whole like powerlessness thing that is achieved by doing this.
Yeah.
To me, it didn't seem like Ring had a chance to fight, and I was sitting here like, how are you gonna overpower this? But then he did something really simple, which is that usually in any fiction that has an ability like this, they can only cancel out so much at a time, regardless of how long they can keep it going. You just gotta hit that max and then
I got the
over.
impression that it was like kind of a glass cannon ability that like he could cancel it out, but only if he was focused on it, and that he was vulnerable to a sneak attack because he didn't have much defense if it wasn't for the
I
negate.
felt like it was more of just like he could only cancel out so much mana at a time. He had a limit to how much he could cancel. So if Ring could just like max out the power,
using splitting his ability, like he split his attack into two pieces, and he was defending. They thought he was attacking from one side, but really the second part of his attack came in from the back and like took them by surprise.
I'm just trying to look at this right now because what I remember is that he just did an attack that he couldn't outright cancel all the way. I guess that's speaking of one of the things in the summary.
It's at 648. He lands at 648 of the episode. He lands a hit by detaching a piece of his oversoul, which landed a surprise attack. You can't negate what you can't see.
I don't understand this oversoul. Oh. From what at least from the translation, he says that what was it exactly that Marin says here?
He detached
the power. This power doesn't destroy; it gives. From the way he was talking, it sounded like he was just instead of using small attacks, and trying to overpower an enemy, he's going all in with one giant attack. This translation I got right here is this power doesn't destroy.
He tried to do that, but that either didn't work or that was like his bluff. It either didn't work or that was the bluff that he was going with. But
I mean, it destroyed the Oversoul, didn't when it came back, but it destroyed the Oversoul. Not destroyed it, but it hurt it.
It might have hurt the Oversoul, but when he was coming in and he was coming in with that all-out attack that caused the guy to pay attention to it. Like he focused his energy on it, and then he had split his Oversoul into two pieces. Like why else would he have split his Oversoul into two pieces? He came in from behind and took a chunk out of it, and then the guy looked back and he was like, oh! And then he used a full-on frontal attack after that to finish it off.
Right now I'm just going through the episode as it's I'm letting it play out. And I'm not trying to skip over everything because I feel like I lose things in the process.
Well, I gave you the time signature for where it appears, though.
I saw the 658. What I think was I looked at that, but all I saw there was the lightning rod thing, and it attacked a giant Oversoul. That's where I'm continuing from. Is I'm not really trying to skip over everything. So right now we're with I guess after that happens, you get a flashback of the training I guess they undergone in the cabin by themselves as a team, I'm guessing, along with that Howl's minion who likes to be around for a reason.
But for 648, the fight is over, so you can go through the entire episode, but the fight is over at 648 anyway. I mean, that's about when the Oversoul is defeated.
I still don't get that, and I don't know if it's even splitting it. That's what his attack. Ren's Oversoul is confusing me. I don't understand it at all. It sounds like you understand it, but I don't understand his Oversoul at all.
It's like the Majin Buu thing.
It doesn't make sense.
Majin Buu and Majin Buu could take a piece of himself and control.
Yeah, that's his body though. He's talking about a spirit energy.
Yeah, the spirit has a piece of its body that detached, came up behind him with a sneak attack, just like Majin Buu did in Dragon Ball. Except in this case, it's attacking. It's not being used to absorb its enemy.
I mean, from what I saw, it looks like he shot a piece of it off. I mean, yeah, I got that, and it stayed behind him, and it just made an electric current.
Right, and Ren acted really big and intimidating in the front to keep the focus on him. And like with his big, I'm gonna attack you with everything I've got, and the other guy's like, oh, I don't know why you're doing that. Like, you know, you've already seen it fail, and he goes, well, I'm gonna do it anyway. And then like the whole time he's got like oversoul stuff going on in the background, like coming in for a sneak attack, and that was his plan all along.
I still don't get his oversoul because I honestly thought oversouls needed to have like be constantly connected to the shaman, but it's clearly not the case.
Well, yeah, I mean, either way, like obviously, like there's a disconnect there. We know that this thing is not constantly connected to the shaman because there's two pieces. That was like the big plot twist in the first place.
Whatever. I'm still confused by his oversoul. I really don't. But I guess if it works, whatever. After all that happens, we get a flashback. I guess all the training went under with Chocolo as a new mentor. We'll get to him in the future.
Well, do we want to go back to One Punch Man at 3:55?
No, I can really care less about like the X-Law's members because they end up dying anyway. But well, not here.
They begin to set up the stage for the sneak attack that's going on Hal, with the X-Laws coming in and setting it up, and the guy that looks uncannily like One Punch Man, who's obviously going to eventually become the Shaman King. I think this one's name is Dingbat, right?
I guess I don't know. I thought Dingbat had hair.
Maybe he did. I thought Dingbat was the bald one, but you might be right. That might be the guy named Jack or whatever that we're looking at there. Well, anyway, they come in to set up. They have this like side plot line that they break the action for, where these guys are coming in on their own to do their own special sneak attack on the group, on how they're going rogue with it, and it looks like they're going to try to use guns instead of like their shaman power, because they feel like that's the better plan. Which, if we're being honest, it might be. And then they cut back to Ren, who comes in with his sneak attack. And then it's like there's so many different plot lines going here overall, like at the same time. What is the
Listening.
At 5:55, I have a mention of Sati-sama. Do you remember why that is? I'm gonna double check if you don't.
Well, at 5:45 in the episode, it doesn't. At least from what I can tell, they don't mention her name. Oh, there she is. Yeah, they mention her by name. Sati is that chick that we see later on. That goes and meets Yo later on in all this.
They named her Sati, which I thought was interesting because it's actually a whole branch of Buddhism. It's like it's not a branch of Buddhism, but it's an essential Buddhist practice, a form of mindfulness or awareness. It's the first factor of the 7 factors of enlightenment, referencing the correct or right mindfulness. And it's the 7th element of the Noble Eightfold Path. So it's like this really like fundamental piece of like Buddhism, and Buddhism being like so fundamental to this series in general, especially this section of it where we're getting like so deep in Indian like beliefs and stuff like that. I thought it was really interesting that she had this like name that was built around that. So anyway, I thought that was kind of cool that they bring that up.
I mean, we'll talk a little more about Sati as we get later on in these episodes. And I guess this definition, she kind of actually like that all the way up until the end. Just gonna plant that seed, and we'll come back to that later. I guess I also forgot. Apparently, this is when this is the episode they introduced Pascal Abaraja, or how you pronounce his name, into the episode.
Abaj.
Maybe? I didn't. I guess I forgot this is where they introduced him. I thought he was in the episodes prior, but I guess He might have been, but maybe we didn't get his name at the time.
I
That's
thought
pro-
that was really cool because there's a huge history behind Pascal Lasbage. In real life, there was basically like it was a pre-Columbian idol, and it was like considered like really, really sacred to this village in Guatemala. And they had it up there, and they were making offerings to it and things like that. And then there was like a Catholic action group that found it and badly damaged it. But it was like defaced and ripped apart and stuff like that. But before, it was described as a grotesque human figure with a large head and high pointed forehead. But like,
I want to just also point this out. I'm not sure if you're going to say this. You might actually, but I'm just going to say this anyway. What you just described sounds like a really racist caricature of a black person. Just gonna, just lay that out there. You can continue. I just wanted just to point that out.
I appreciate that, but it was used by Mayan shamans. So I mean, the people that had originally created it probably had never even seen a black person.
Maybe they have, maybe they weren't known as that. Because it also could be too that maybe some of like the Mayans. I mean, I learned later on apparently that some of the Hispanics, depending on wherever they are actually dark skinned. It was really odd for me to see that because like, okay, that I'm kind of confused. Maybe the history is completely wrong, and not right in all the situations.
Yeah, I mean, African Americans and Native Americans have very dark skin, so it's not outrageous to think that possibly it is not unlike African like art. You know what I mean? In some ways, because and you know what I mean. It's similarly dark, but it was just like.
I only really brought it because I just thought it was interesting that the way you described that. I was like that somebody coming out of nowhere. But that sounds like a really racist caricature.
It predates Spanish conquest of Guatemala, so I mean, I don't think there were many, if any, black people brought during Spanish conquest. It's possible there were some black people there, but I doubt that this was constructed while they were being conquered by the Spanish to look like an African slave during Spanish conquest. So it seems unlikely that it was connected in any way directly to Africa.
I'm not saying that. It's just really the way you described it was like I don't think that was ever the intent, but the way you described it is like that out of context could really sound like a really racist caricature. But you continue with your your
no, it's okay. It's just
Mayan.
like, there's so much. It probably predates 1524. So it's really, really, really old. And it's from a period of history that's like almost completely decimated. Like, we know so little about that part of the world in that time. Like, there's very little like written history in the first place, very little respect for what was still there, and very little that survived in general.
Well, aren't the no, I guess the Mayan civilization thing is the main reason we don't know much of anything because like they were really a hidden people.
They were hidden people, but there's very little that was like allowed to survive either. Like the Spanish that just came through there just ripped through the countryside and just left very like little in the name of survivors and stuff like that as well. So there was no respect for the culture or anything that was left behind. So it was just kind of like torn through in general. So the
back to the
stone
episode.
figure was like left over after the Spanish conquest, and it was like left over in the village, and it was then carried away from the site and re-put on a hill so offerings could be made to it, away from the vigilance of the Catholic Church and the Spanish colonists who would have disapproved of it. But then it was still found eventually, in the 1950s, where it was damaged, even though at that point it was like another 400 years old. They still found it and like decided to try to wreck it even then, even though it was like one of the last possible few things, instead of preserving it at all. So they were right to try to hide it, but it's such an obscure like piece of history, and it just shows how deep like this show digs to like bring things up. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, we need a minor deity. Let's find like the most obscure imaginable possible thing. Do you know what I mean? And bring it up. And like the restoration of it was really really embarrassing too. Like they tried to restore it, but really all they did was mostly just kind of like slather concrete on it. So the restoration was an embarrassment. Like what's left there now is like nothing like what it used to look like. The picture that you see of the front of the statue is like not what it looks like now. Like if you look at pictures of it later on of like what's left of it, it doesn't even look like the same thing.
I mean, a lot of that could just be wear from the weather, though. I mean,
No. Like they came at this thing with like hammers and everything, and like just beat the crap out of it. And if you look at like the picture of it now compared to the picture of it then, the picture of it now, like it's not even recognizable. It doesn't even look like the same thing. So like here, I'll throw in the notes a picture of what it looks like now after like being defaced, and you'll see what I mean. The restoration was basically they just dumped a crap ton of cement on it. Did you see what it looks like now?
looks like a poop of a cross on it.
Yeah, exactly. Like what it looks like now compared to like the picture you see above was in 1948, and what you see at the bottom is what it looks like in 2008 after it was defaced. The restoration was like nothing. Like it was like not even like they didn't even try.
Well, American history. Well, not American history, but history in general.
Yeah. So anyway, it's just such like a footnote thing. Like whoever made this series like was so knowledgeable about this stuff. Just to even know that thing existed, do you know what I mean? Enough to bring it to
I mean, it's probably just he just wanted to use the name. He thought it was probably spiritual in nature. I think that's really what it came
It's
down
just
to.
super cool that like they went to that trouble, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna disagree with you. I'm just saying that is probably what was ultimately the reason for using his name.
I still like it.
Yeah, I know. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying.
Sorry, I like it. Sorry, I like it.
So I guess from that, Abaj is I guess going to train them to help them make new oversouls.
Mm-hmm.
What seems to be the interesting, I guess, recurring theme here now is that now they're recreating new oversouls, which I guess are new attacks, in the concept of a shonen show. One of the I guess they all he says that you all have to like work past I guess your own issues I guess with who you are, and funnily enough he actually looks at Horo who he claims that he isn't acting like himself, which I thought was odd. But I guess it was even more odd. He brought up the fact that like Horo seemed way more naturally calm-headed, level-headed than he's been acting. And this kind of goes into one of those like I guess sudden reveals is that we've now learned that Horo's name isn't actually Horo. He's just been going by a false alias.
How far are you in the episode right now? I feel like you're farther in this episode than I was in my notes. Go ahead.
I was at 1547 because I think I was looking at the notes.
15 minutes in right now.
I was looking at the notes. I think we already talked about.
I found it super interesting that I mean, going way back right now, several minutes back. Don't you think it's interesting that Ren said that Choco Love was the strongest of the three of them, and that Horo was the weakest?
No, not really. I think that's just Ren being Ren.
You don't think? I mean, if nothing else, you don't think the humility of that was valuable?
No, because he's been what's the word I'm looking for? Shoot. He's been humble like way before this. I'm not even just trying to poke fun at it. I'm just saying that like, no, not really. At least for what we know now about who they're supposed to be. I mean, even before then, I didn't really find Because I really don't know how like they were what Ren's using to gauge their strength. Is he using their mana, or is he using something else? And he's only claiming, and I guess another thing too, he's only claiming that because Struggle Love has been through some training that Ren and Horror haven't been through yet. And by this point, they're gonna get that training. So, in my honest opinion, that completely destroys what he says here.
Okay.
Because what we're seeing now in present day is like what happened after this.
Uncharacteristically humble of him to be like, "You're the strongest of us," because that not only is that him saying that like I'm not the strongest of us, but it's him saying that like, I don't know, just telling someone that like I'm not the strongest of us and you're stronger than me. It just seems surprising for him to be willing to admit that.
He's admitted that he's weak though in the past though. He's admitted to how he's afraid. I just like I guess for me it doesn't really mean too much significance because he's already admitted that he needs to get stronger. There are people who are stronger than him.
To say that to Choco freaking Love?
You got a problem with black people? Sorry.
I have a problem with him like being humble to Choco Love. Like that seems out of character for him.
Well, but basically we know what Chocolate's an important character. I've never discounted Chocolate in such a way that when Ren says something like that to him, I take notice. It's like Ren's already admitted that like he's already been humble. This is another one of his humble moments there. It's like, and that to me it just doesn't seem that striking enough for me. He's already, if he hadn't had that moment prior when he was getting his behind beat by Yo's father, and then he did this, I feel that probably would have been a lot more significant to me. But like,
do you feel like also that we kind of learned in this episode that Horo's the strongest of the three of them anyway?
I don't know if that's what we get from like, he's definitely stronger than he's like letting on, and a part of me even thinks that maybe because Horo had, well, I mean, it's been revealed that he's been putting on a facade this entire time. Makes me believe that he's a lot stronger than he's been letting people live on, and it makes me, I'm even more wondering how strong he actually is, because like next episode we'll get to that in a minute, of things that are said towards him from Anna. And the way she acts towards him, and it was very odd to me that after revealing who his real name was, why she suddenly turned on him like that. That was really odd. But she showed no interest to wanting to poke him at all anyway. The way the immediate change in her demeanor towards him was really weird.
Yeah, that suddenly she's like, all right, now you're my husband's like nemesis. Get ready to get your ass beat.
So, I mean, like, I don't know if he's stronger than Ren. He's probably stronger than Struggle though, but I don't think he's like, I'm not sure like where his strength compares to Ren and where his strength will eventually like land. Because like, I mean, up to this point, I mean, you keep on like putting down Naruto, hammering the point that you don't like him at all into your notes here. Like, it's odd because like,
I'm so happy you just called him Naruto. I can't tell you how happy I am that you just like.
No, you keep on hammering. You keep calling him Naruto. He is not Naruto, by the way. But we're not gonna get into the semantics of this.
He is Naruto.
No, he's not.
Just double down at this point, my guy.
Nope. No, dude, you're gonna cause a lot of people to get angry at you. It's gonna.
You're gonna get angry.
People are gonna get angry at you for this comparison here. I'm trying to save you. there are people who really like that show, and you comparing him to Horo is really upset some people.
If you say so.
I know so, but yeah, I mean the whole him Ren saying that Struggle's stronger than him at that right now. I didn't think that was like of real too much importance. I mean, I'm glad you thought it was important, but I just, like I said, to me, I caught notice more of this earlier on when he was like humbling himself by getting his behind handed to him by Yo's father.
Yeah.
With that whole thing of like, how there are people stronger than me and I gotta get stronger than them. But I guess to sum up a little bit, because it looks like he's the Jackson Nazi Yanagi, his own teammate out. Okay, after Ren destroys Yai Nagi's Oversoul, pretty much his team members turn on him, knock him off the battlefield, saying that you've betrayed, you put shame to the, I guess the Sachisawa's name, and the guy with the red hair who let's see here, what's his name? The guy with the red hair. The guy with the red hair does a cheap shot on Ren because Ren turns around and he shouldn't have been, but turns around, does a cheap shot on Ren, knocks him out. He appears to be dead. We learn later on that he's not. He does a cheap shot on Ren, and Ren gets knocked out of the battlefield. Chocolove gets involved, because he gets angry and doesn't jump into the fight. Abaja says that you fool, you shouldn't act on instinct like that, and Chocolove gets a cheap shot through the chest. Like, it's very, like, this his team members are really knocking out like Ren and Chocolove really fast. They don't really seem to care. Again, they also seem to be using a lot of force. I'm trying to figure. See, does that guy with the red hair, like, does his theme remind you a little bit of like Arabian, like I guess like desert?
I can't say it doesn't. You're right. It did have sort of that kind of feeling to me.
Like he looked very like Latin to me, but I'm not sure. Like,
I was trying to connect him to the Wisdom King idols, and then when I'd done it, like, I had a really tough time because I was able to connect some of the other ones so directly. There was one that was sort of focused on love, but it seemed like such a stretch to like connect him to the one, like, to love. But when he was like eyes and arrows of love, and I know there's a Cupid, you know what I mean, thing that like has like love as a connection, but like I couldn't get on board this having anything really to do with that. So I didn't know what to make out of eyes and arrows of love, you know, like being relevant in any way, shape, or form. But it was very hard to completely ignore it either. So I don't know what to tell you.
I guess I don't got much to add to that. Like essentially, like as soon as like Ring gets knocked out, Chocola jumps into the fight, and Abaja actually stops Chocola from getting involved until and gets getting himself killed, saying that it was obviously a mental attack, which I guess most of these attacks have been mental. There's been very few like physical attacks that haven't been dealt by Hao's team. But essentially, I guess Pascal, like, I keep wanting to call him Pascal. Jeez. The Golden Totem dude, I guess it's like pretty much he says something to Chocolove that pisses Horror off a little bit. I forgot what it was though.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going back real quick just to see. It's something
When
that
he says it's arrows of love, and then he's up against Horror.
Lose will be big. Okay, that's what it is. Like Chocolate, like he's talking to Chocolate. Said if you lose this fight, you will be in trouble. And Chocolate's like, "What about me?"
Yeah.
So like, I mean, one of the things he says here, "Don't lose your cool." I thought he was like talking to Chocolate when he said "Don't lose your cool" at first, but I'm guessing, based on what we know now, he was talking to Horror.
What did you think about the fact that Aizen was going on about his arrows of love, and then they focus on Horror, and you see on his bandana that he's got hearts on it, like in the dead center of it?
Maybe it, like I said, there's more to Horror's backstory. I mean, Yo brings up the fact that we don't know much about Horror at all. He's been the one character we don't know a dang thing about.
I thought that was super interesting that they just kind of like drop that super subtly.
I mean, like, one of the things that they say that Horror is so fixated on, he's so fixated on this like village of lily pads and whatnot, and you don't really understand why.
Right.
So like, I mean, maybe the hearts like, have something to do with that.
It's so easy to just sort of vaguely accept that it had something to do with his like familiar or his oversoul, but like, why would it? Like, what makes that such a big deal?
Well, I mean, I guess what we're doing is, as I'm trying to like get to the point. Well, I guess we talk about like what happens here. is some of the stuff has actually kind of been like really funnily foreshadowed for him. And I wanna bring your memory back to a specific moment, because I looked up, I saw correlations when I looked up the Hokkaido wolf, which is what his tribe is supposed to be descended from, or supposedly descended from, because of the myth. Um, one thing they bring is the fact that like the whole destruction of like deforestation and whatnot, and things being killed and not being uh properly taken care of, like eating it
Yeah.
all. Horror actually brings up an interesting. You would see it as a throwaway thing because nobody cares about horror at that point. But he says like during before they get to the when Yo and the gang get to the Patch Village, and they get separated from Horror, and Horror's by himself with that girl in the woods and that bear that is attacking people. uh Horror says something really interesting that I didn't pick up on at all. Again, because he wasn't all that important. But he was saying that like he hates how like I guess how like he doesn't say this in so many words, but you can tell that he doesn't like how like humanity treats nature. And he gets very upset when the bear gets killed from those poachers, and he gets really upset with the poachers saying that you're gonna eat that. Like how dare you kill something and not finish it or return it back to where it came from, such and such. Like he got very upset. It was a very like thinking back on it now, it was interesting how like how I mean I'm maybe stretching it, saying that maybe foreshadow was there, but I feel like how some of it was kind of foreshadowed with him, and it was just like small things that we weren't paying attention to.
Hmm.
Because again, he wasn't important, so it was just one of those things. Like maybe if they had paid attention to those like a little bit more back then, maybe a lot of this would have made sense here. But again, he wasn't all that important, and he wasn't doing much. In fact, he was losing half the fights he was in. It was it's kind of jarring to see this. It's like, geez, where did all this come from? And then they
Yeah,
bring up
he's a sleeper hit all of a sudden. I mean, he had that big heroic moment where he saved his fellow like ice heroes, but like that, if anything, that proved that he was a minor character for me, other than instead of disproving it. Because when he fought those characters, like he just seemed like he wasn't that big of a deal, you know?
yeah, but I guess it kind of goes to that whole thing that we don't know a dang thing about him. And that's proving to be like not a problem. It's proving to be one of those things like, okay, now they're making a big deal about we don't know much about him. I wonder what this truly means.
Absolutely.
Like because like here like Awacha brings up the fact that he acts against his nature, and typically he's cool-headed, calm, and very cunning. I'm guessing is what we're getting from like a wolf. And for a reason he doesn't act like that, and we don't really know. I don't understand why. Because he acted. Because the funny thing too, I want to bring up too, is the fact when Yo first met him, he didn't act like this. He actually kind of acted a little bit cool, collected. I mean, he made jokes and everything like that, but he didn't act the way he acts when we're seeing him now. Versus, well, I mean, during the transitionary period when he was with Yo, and where he is now, his attitude and everything kind of changed so suddenly. Like it wasn't like, and on top of it, his father seems a really serious character too, and I was always kind of like, how is he your son? Jeez, you act completely different. And even his sister says she's afraid of him. And I'm like, that's even stranger. That's why when I had to look at the whole Hokkaido wolf thing, which I think you have the notes here, so we can go off of that. Um, I think you have the notes here. Oh, here, yeah.
Yeah.
We learned that Horo's real name is Usui Horiku. Um,
Haraku, which means
Hori
wolf, yeah.
Horiku means wolf. Let's just say that his ancestors were born from a union of the goddess and the wolf. I looked this up when I first saw this. It was very interesting because like I also remember something also that I think I spoke about like when we first starting this whole podcasting with the Shaman King, how like I was trying to look up whether there were any shaman religions or whatever in Japan, and I think it's the Ainu that we came across, but we didn't talk much about it because it didn't. I guess I don't know if it I didn't think it was gonna come if it was gonna come up at all in the show. I think actually it was the same episode I brought this up was with him in it too. So this is kind of all accidentally coming full circle. But yeah, but like I guess like is an extinct the wolf that his tribe worships is an extinct subspecies of gray wolf that apparently looked very similar to the wolf that's over here.
Yeah, they looked more like an American wolf than like the wolves in the area that they were in. They were basically what happened is like, even though it was in Asia, the so it must have been kind of an ancient wolf. Probably came over during the Ice Age. I'm guessing if that's what happened, because there was a lot of land bridges during the Ice Age where things could migrate over the ice from one side to the other. But basically during the Meiji Restoration period, and pardon my pronunciation, there was a lot of agricultural reforms, and the areas that they lived on, they decided that it was a pest animal, a nuisance for the agriculture, so they decided they would just wipe it out. So that's what they did. They just came on and they started using like poison lace baits, and they just wiped out any predators that they thought were a threat to their livestock. So the wolf was just entirely wiped out, which is super unfortunate. And it wasn't like that long ago. It's believed by some people that it survived up until 1945 on this one island of South Milan. But it's been marked as extinct since 1889. So like that was just like a belief that it survived on that island, but nobody can really 100% prove it. But since 1889, it's been considered extinct. So it wasn't like it was like 150 years ago or less. You know what I mean? That it's been wiped out. But the island that it was on, they decided they were going to wipe it out like 1873, and it just didn't take them very long to kind of just completely take them out. They actually called them noxious animals. So, and they had a bounty on it and everything else, and they were just hunted out.
Jeez. Yeah, apparently they have light gray fur and dark guard hairs running on their back. They actually looked really cool. If you actually ever got a chance to look at an image of them, they look really cool. Probably kind of why they probably used this wolf here. But back to like Ainu thing or Ainu, I don't know how you pronounce it. They revered it as a deity. Pretty much calling the deity that they worshipped Horku Kamui, howling god, in recognition of the animal's similar hunting habits. The wolves were apparently what became a normal thing for them was they were sacrificing to the god. They were sacrifice wolves in a sending away ceremony. And this happened a lot in Nine communities. Apparently, you have written down here in the Tokachi and the Hidaki, I guess, factions of it. They also held the origin also. I guess the weird thing too, I guess it's kind of what they're using for horror here. His apparently like there was like a myth saying that it was a birth like linked between the white wolf and a goddess. Not much is I think said from that point, but there's a myth about that apparently, and that's what I guess it's the stories that they tell in their community, and that's actually what they start revealing Horo's true nature with is that Horo is like I guess he's like he's a wolf. You know, I guess like maybe it explains why Anna acts the way she is around him now because like she doesn't trust him. But I guess the interesting thing was once that's all revealed, like the people that like Chocolo's having trouble with and Ren who turned his back on him, like suddenly Horo's like a badass. He's like freezing things midair, and I'm just sitting here like, where the heck was this? When can you suddenly drop the temperature?
Right.
That's the one thing it wasn't that he was freezing his midi. He dropped the temperature in the exact spot. It was really
connected with like creating heat through fire, and you're like, holy crap!
Like, I just sort of like it was really cool, pun intended. I just like,
my gosh.
to me.
Get out.
I can't. I own the podcast.
Oh, no, it's true too.
I would show myself out, but I actually own the podcast. But it was an interesting display of like sudden, like in a really weird way. Each character on Ren's team got a power up, and I have wondered for a while like when was Horror gonna get his power up. I thought maybe he wasn't gonna get one, and then suddenly he got one here. And it was just because of the way he was acting. And I also want to bring, especially speaking of the whole like goddesses and the wolf thing, I like that his fists have names. I think it's Howling Mother and something Father, but I need to look at it real quick. No, the Right Wife, and I think the other one's called the the left husband, I think.
It sounds like something you'd meet from an Irishman in a bar. Like,
oh dear, why?
He was like, "Oh, I like you, but the lads have been drinking. Meet the right wife."
Dang it, Chuck. Why are you like this?
This is what I call the right wife.
Be like severe frostbite burns like fire. Like, good gracious. Yeah, and the way he's acting, it's like it's completely different. He seems like more competent, and I guess that's the whole like wolf in sheep's clothing thing. Maybe is what they're going with him. Like he appears one way, but in reality he's a different way. I mean, his sister brings the fact that she's always been afraid of him, and I was like, that's a sudden change considering how you acted around him when we first saw you.
Yeah.
If anything, her was afraid of you.
Everybody was afraid of her. She's like the Chi-Chi of the series.
But after Horror, like the complete decimates the Oversoul, we come back to Satsu-san, and they bring up like they finally found somebody for like the group of 5 legendary warriors, and apparently one of them is gonna be Horror.
Mm-hmm.
They've been looking. Apparently, she's been looking for 5 legendary warriors. They found one of them.
How did you feel about the fact that Opacho like believed in him all along? Like it sounds like Opacho knew about his potential all along.
Well, here's the thing about that.
Like,
I think
is he sort of a curiosity in the series, or is there something more to him as a character?
Horror.
Opacho.
Opacho?
I know he just sits in the wings and...
I'm pretty sure he's got more. I feel like for a character, I thought about this already, so I already had this opinion laid out. For a character who appears to be so innocent, but Hao seems to enjoy having around, either one of two things is that he's a lot more powerful than we think, or 2, he's the replacement for Masamune, the soul that Hao lost almost 500 years ago.
He just seems
he's one of the
really,
other.
really good, and nobody seems to like acknowledge it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's one or the other. Is either he's a replacement spirit or a replacement soul, like either physically or spiritually for the missing Masamune or whoever Hao is like replacing by his side, because he doesn't seem to have a problem with him, and he seems to be the one character that Hao will not get mad at and kill, which is odd to me, considering how liberal he is with his abilities to destroy people.
That makes sense. I just wonder the fact that he knew that Horror was much more powerful and that he was gonna be fine. They just throw it in there subtly, but like this, for such a thoughtful series, like I just don't think there's anything subtle about anything, you know?
But honestly, with Hao, like I believe Hao probably told a lot of like everything that like he has. It's like I feel like Hao knew.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, I don't know what Hao didn't know, but like I probably think I knew like he knew, and even though he was very like nonchalant around him, he didn't seem all that concerned. So it's like, like at first.
Why would he be? Let's be honest.
Well, he's a legendary warrior. We now know that. I'm not sure what that does for his power level. I mean, I'm not sure how much Furio could. That's the other thing too. I'm actually kind of curious what else has he been hiding besides his true personality. Like, because he makes such a big deal about like him hiding his true personality. It's like, does it really matter that much that he hasn't been acting like himself? Apparently, it did, because it allowed him to like use his abilities correctly.
Right.
So like, I mean, yeah, they pretty much win Team Rin wins the fight because of Horo Horo. Words that I didn't think I was ever going to get a chance to say.
Fair enough.
So, like, I mean, pride for Jock's pride. Hao takes the win here. But I guess with that, we're gonna move on to episode 41. Is it? Yeah, 41. Yeah, we're actually kind of running long here, a lot longer than I was expecting.
I did a lot of research for that episode. Like I didn't want it to go to waste, so I appreciate
That's no problem. That's no problem. No problem at all. We'll go to episode 41 if I can get to it without being an idiot.
It was a really cool episode. Like I really appreciate how rich in mythology this is, and whoever wrote this is just so knowledgeable. You know. I don't know. I was really.
I like mythology, and that's kind of like why I like Japanese mythology a lot. It's just something cool to read. And unfortunately, this isn't just Japanese mythology. This is a whole bunch of mythology involved in it, wrapped in a Sunday dress. Episode 41: Encounters in Hell. The former ex-law attempt to assassinate Hao, who's thinking about his mother, but are incinerated in the process. Meanwhile, Marco, Jean, Lyser, Manta, Tomo are attacked by Anohole Toki. Sate kills Shio to send him on a quest in Hell, where he meets his predecessor Yoken, who defeated Hao in the past tournament using Matamune. Yor reveals his oversoul spirit of the sword, White Swan. Get that in a minute. I guess, well, like the very beginning of the episode, I believe we see the defected members, or like the rogue members from Marco's team, I believe. Yeah, they're like setting up to. No, not. That's the beginning of the episode. This is truly what happens. For whatever reason, Anna's temperament changes towards him, and Ho is kind of confused too. Ho does mention that at some point that he will tell everybody, I guess, his deal, but I guess they won't find out till later. But Anna's like whole disposition changes towards him. Like she gets very hostile towards him. And maybe it's just something to do with the fact that Yo's gonna have to fight. Team Yo's gonna have to fight Team Ren in the next fight. Also, she seems very positive that Chocolate knows what's really going on here, which is another thing I'm actually kind of confused too.
Why are you confused?
I'm not sure how much Chocolate knows, because Anna seems like she seems to think that Chocolate knows more than he's letting on to.
What if he does? He's been to Hell, and that seems to be where everybody's going today.
Gonna send you straight to Hell.
Hell seems to be where everybody's hanging out right now.
Yeah, actually, I guess we can talk about that now. We both brought up some discontent with the phrase "God class shaman." Apparently, we now know how you become one. And it's to die and go to hell and train. Can I be the first one to say what?
Well, I get it. Every time, it's just basically the concept of Zenkai boost. Like every time you get this far close to death and come back as a shaman, you become more intimately familiar with death, and then that makes you more qualified to deal with the dead, which is what shaman do. So I sort of get what the point of it is, but I don't know if I care. That everybody's trying to die and go to hell because the more time they spend in death, think about it, like in Dragon Ball, like I really feel like this is echoes of Dragon Ball, like the idea in Dragon Ball that like when people die, like they go to King Kai's or whatever and they come back stronger than ever. Like there's very few situations in Dragon Ball where somebody died and didn't come back stronger than ever.
I was gonna say, can I interrupt you, but I guess you stopped your thought. You know that woman that you said you saw that you were very confused with at the end of the intro? It just suddenly dawned on me. That woman looks like Sati when she's not wearing her face bead. And on top of that, it must be her because of what happens in episode 42. I mean, episode 42. But at the same time, I'm confused because But we know what happens in the episode. I'm gonna just say she dies. She gets stabbed in the back.
Mhm.
But so she must be a. I guess the other thing too is the fact that like Sati is pulling a lot of strings here apparently. And
It's
first,
clearly a big deal.
I guess before we get to that, because there's a bunch of dominoes to knock over at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But we come back after the whole confrontation with Anna and Horo, what was going on there. We come back to the X-Laws. Um, we're here mostly for Lyserg because Lyserg is in the car with everybody else, and we're learning a little bit about like I guess Maiden, who's now outside of the Iron Maiden now. I'm guessing she's gonna be like that for the rest of the series because she's hasn't gone back into it since. So it seems really weird. With that revelation that she's a normal girl. Doesn't seem to affect her. Doesn't really affect her. Doesn't really affect her. What she wants to do, which is make the world a safer place. The maid actually asks like Lyserg, I guess like an important question is like, do you still want to get? Well, I guess it's Lyserg and I mean it's like the maiden and but yeah, the maiden asks like, does he still want to go after Hal, get revenge for his parents? He's like, he still wants to stop Hal, but it isn't. It's not much for revenge anymore. He doesn't know what the right thing to do is here. It also sounds like too that Yo's been struggling with this too, and we're gonna get one of those. I'm guessing, like how I guess I could compare it. This show showed up way before Avatar: Last Airbender did, but it seems like we have what's the word I'm looking for? Not a pacifist. I guess it is what they are, is like a main character who doesn't want to kill anybody. Like how
I don't know if I go so far as to call it a pacifist so much as just peace loving, like somebody that believes that there's good in the other characters and doesn't want everybody to have to die.
Well, the thing is, I feel like it's more of like he doesn't like violence, and I think that's kind of part of Yo's personality. I don't think he likes fighting. I don't think he likes quarreling physically or in the mental space.
So what you're saying is he's not peace loving. He just doesn't like violence.
A little bit of both. I mean, he has fought a lot here. I'm just kind of comparing what I've known about Aang to Yo here, and they kind of seem similar. That they don't want to kill the main villain, even though all signs point to yes, kill this man. But we already know how one of them ended that series. I mean, it was the most shocking way to end in the series too. Well, we're not talking about Avatar. But
it's fantastic, by the way. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, you guys haven't watched that, watch it. You'll be surprised. But we cut from Marco and the gang back over to Marco's rogue faction. He has no idea what they're doing. They've completely defected because they don't trust Marco anymore. He's not their boss anymore. He's just a CEO. But I also thought that's what the CEO was their boss. But they all are prepared to try to kill like Hal. But as one of their men is about to, I guess, pull the trigger, Hal has a memory of his mother. Which is, by the way, to me really shocking that they suddenly have this now. And then we see him crying for the first time in the series.
Marco?
Not Marco, Hal.
Yeah, and he thinks about his mother. Sort of a random moment, because he immediately turns it around and turns into like a demon.
Well, I mean, he's nothing but a boiling pot of rage. They keep on saying that.
Seconds later.
Huh?
Seconds later, yeah.
I mean, he's always been a boiling pot of rage, though. It looks like, I mean, he's just been holding on to his rage. But yeah, after he starts crying, he immediately incinerates the guy out in the trees, and then incinerates another guy inside the building. And as the last guy is screaming to the heavens, saying, "Why are you doing this? Like why are you making us lose more?" And all Hal can say is that, "Why did you join the fight if you were afraid of losing things?" I was like, hot dang it.
It's brutal.
Yeah, but we also learned something even more interesting too is that as Howell had been reincarnating through the generations, everywhere that he's been, there's been conflict. So he apparently knows about everybody who was in this tournament, which is even more like, okay, what don't you know? Like, what the heck? Like,
I mean, it makes sense that he'd know a lot, but yeah, he does seem to know an awful lot. How did you feel about the fact that he was wearing a brass knuckle that was a Lego?
I didn't care. Actually, I didn't notice that.
I was so mad. I was so mad about the Lego brass knuckle.
Can we move on from the Lego brass knuckle?
I don't know if we can, Jeremy.
Are you sure? Do you think can continue?
I don't know if I'm going to be able to continue.
But after all that, we go back to we jump it back and forth between these locations. But we come back to Marco and the gang.
Is that you saying that we have to move on?
Yes, Jock, we have to
I
move
feel
on.
like you're telling me that moving on is not a choice for me.
We have to move on.
I have to go on with my life. I see.
Dig it. Why, Jock? But
Okay.
we come back to Marco and the gang, and they're I guess having a normal conversation. Tomo is asking, like, is complimenting Jean on her dress. Jean offers to let her try it on. Marco's saying, "No, you're a filthy hag." And I guess as she's tearing up a little bit, he changes her mind, saying that you could try it on if you want, which is very
Uncharacteristically kind of him.
I
I
got
mean,
whiplash from that.
Yeah, he's like, okay, you can try it on. You're like, wow. I mean, I get it. Like, she's pretty sweet to like be a jerk to, but I was not expecting that turnabout. I don't know about you.
I kind of was, but at the same time, it was one of those like, I saw this coming, and I could care less about it.
Really?
Like, I feel like they're trying to turn Marco over, and they're doing successful. I give them that, but it's like I'm more interested in these 5 Guardians. Right now, the story has peaked, and I have more interest in that.
You say so.
I guess I want to bring up too. I think I just missed it. It was a clip here, and for the first time in Shaman King's history that I've noticed, they've censored something gruesome in a fight. It looks like somebody's head was like their brain was exposed. I don't know
Okay.
where. I don't know what number that was, but there was like a scene where like there was a guy who got beaten by one of Hal's crew, and you just see there's just like this black field over his head. As far as I can tell, the only reason they would even censor that is if there was brain matter being exposed. But then you wonder why would they do that? Because they're showing a lot of blood here. But I mean, TV.
Well, yeah, I guess so.
I wish I could
It's
find it.
awfully unusual.
But yeah, I know that's something we've seen, but it's like TV? Question mark? Is all I can really give is like TV. Because I will say that's the reason why I even noticed it in the first place was the fact that like that's odd. Of all the things he censored that. That's probably the less gruesome thing they've ever shown. But I guess moving on from that, we cut back from Marco's the whole little situation with the dress thing. We cut over to Yo and his crew training. Well, mostly Yo beating into Ryu into a wooden crate. We apparently show up after he releases his new Oversoul that we will not be seeing this episode, but we will be seeing next episode. Apparently it was strong enough to knock Rio out completely. And Faust shows up, and we found out that House has a new Oversoul that can heal. We also learned later on that apparently Faust's Oversoul can revive. I think is that what they were hinting at?
They seem to be hinting at that, which means Faust is like becomes really important by the end of all of this.
Is either that Faust here can revive or his ancestor can, because they weren't specific. But after we learned all information, they're all looking at the sea as they're prepared to go back to the tournament. All of a sudden, this random woman shows up out of nowhere saying, agreeing with them. Ryu approaches her, and then suddenly a bald ninja shows up out of nowhere, and several more bald monk ninjas show up out of nowhere. they're all about the attack, and then she reveals herself to be Sati, one of the Gandhara people. I guess one of the things, like, Ryu's apparently in love with her. I mean, like, we already can see that. One of the weird, interesting things about one of her followers, I didn't notice this until now, but that big guy is wearing like a brochure in his face.
Brochure?
It looked like a brochure. It just like it was like a book or something on his face.
I missed that.
There's like really big guy in the background. It's like, I don't know what the heck that is. I think it's a
funny
brochure.
At this point, I just took it in as like a motley crew and called it a day. Like, yeah, there's a generic motley crew, because they introduce characters so quickly in this series now. They're like, oh, look, a bunch of guys. Okay.
I mean, that's not really important. I just thought I just not noticed that now.
No,
I don't think it really
funny.
matters or
It's just,
anything,
like,
but I just not
it's
noticed
funny
it.
how like immune I am to this crap now. I'm just like, oh, look, a big bunch of dummies. Hi, dummies. You know. Like, there was like one of them. The way that group looks is like all over the place. Like, one of them's like a little like warped little man. One of them's gigantic. Like, every single one of them is like just screams, we are a weird looking group of freaks.
Okay,
and,
we're
like,
just gonna move on before John keeps going on with this tangent.
Okay, fine.
We continue on to say there's like, I think you're digging into a hole here. You're just gonna keep on digging.
I'm sorry, I just looked at them and I just couldn't. I was like, I'm not surprised in the least. I didn't notice. But I didn't notice because I'm not surprised in the least that one of them had a book on its head. I mean, why not at that point? You know? Why not, like, a Lincoln log up their nose? I mean, when you're watching a series where people have brass knuckles made out of Legos, why not a book on your head?
We're back at this again, are we?
Why not?
We can't. We will not be able to move off of this, will we?
Why not just someone that has, like, armor made out of marshmallows? I mean, is there anything, when you have a brass knuckle made out of Legos and a guy with a book on his head, is there anything that's like out of question at that point? Anything at all?
I mean, no, but we're gonna
there's
try
nothing.
we're gonna
There's
try
zero.
we're gonna try to move on here.
Everything is in play at that point. Everything.
I regret bringing that up now. Okay, but we're gonna continue. With like we've like the woman from the Gandhara.
We need to get a goldfish to leave Lincoln logs in his sock drawer. Excellent. What are we gonna do it? We must do it on the third moon of the fourth Sunday of 2094. Excellent. How do we get there? We time travel in an empty tomato paste container. How do we fit into it? We don't. Brilliant! And then they all pack into it. And the anime doesn't explain how that makes sense.
As he was on that tangent, I decided to look at some of his notes here because I know I haven't been looking at them as I was talking. I was kind of coming off the cuff here.
Why are you so desperate to keep me on the rails?
I know where this leads. And it leads to a talking bike that never gets explained, but we're gonna move on from there. But apparently I guess Sati's real name is Mia.
What's next? Jeremy, honestly, what's the next thing? Like, what would be the most ridiculous possible thing they could do next? Like, maybe like when he goes to hell, he meets the demon that tried to kill them earlier. And the demon is now a really nice guy with a hat, and he like shows them through hell.
I want to, as he's doing this, I wanted this for anybody listening. He's being facetious because this actually does happen, and he's just exasperated about the Lego thing. He's very distraught over the Legos in this show. I don't understand why. He must not had Legos when he was a kid. It's the only thing I can think.
I can sort of, it's silly, but I can understand a silly character that like is Lego themed, because it's sometimes you just need that break in action. But why would you ever have the most serious character, like, not even to do anything, not even to accomplish anything? We're just gonna low-key take our most serious character and with no context explanation or anything, put him in a serious situation where he's crying for the first time ever in the entire goddamn series. And on top of that, he's just gonna be like, without anyone talking about it, like wearing like a Lego like wrist thing. He's just gonna be wearing a Lego like weapon on his hand.
You feel better?
Why would you do that?
You feel better?
Why would you take the scene where he's crying over his like dead mother and distract from it by putting him in a Lego like fist thing?
You good?
Yeah. I'm good.
Are you sure?
I'm okay now.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm okay now. I've calmed down.
I don't know. He derailed me so much with that. I don't even know where to pick up.
Angry. I deserve to be angry.
We'll pick up with the Sati. Apparently you found more lore involving Sati. Apparently the Hindu goddess this time. Shiva's first wife, and after her death reincarnated as Shiva's next wife. That's odd.
Where on my notes are you right now?
925.
Episode
41.
Okay.
We're still on 41.
Good lord. Okay. Yeah, there's not a lot to it. The Hindu goddess was really in love with his first wife was Sati, and she has a scene where like they have a really romantic little story with Shiva, and Shiva like she has a scene where she's waiting for Shiva and Shiva never comes, and she begins to lose faith that Shiva's ever going to come, and she throws her wedding bouquet and says, whoever catches this will be the one I marry. And she throws it up into the air, and Shiva appears and catches it. And it's like this romantic story where he was always there for her, and like in the moment where she was like ready to give up, he's there for her and he catches it and claims his wife, and they get married. And Shiva loves her like drastically is in love with her. And I forget exactly how now, but he's like pursuing her, and they're together for like a really long time, and then she gets killed, and he gets furious that she's killed, and he like sends a vengeful god of fire or something along those lines to avenge her, and it just destroys everything. And like Shiva's like rage, and Shiva mourns the loss of her very, very deeply. And then she's reincarnated as his next wife, and he marries like the reincarnation of her. But I thought it was really cool. I liked the whole thing. I liked how it plays out, and it was really interesting that, of course, it's somebody who's best known for having reincarnated that is the character. But it's also really cool that the word sati itself means truthful, virtuous, or noble, and that's sort of the character we have here. That seems very, very like maybe like nonconformist, but like very, very like noble. And like, you know, she kills Ray, and they're like, you bastard, you killed Ray, and blah blah blah. And she's like, relax, it's me. You know what I mean? Obviously I did this for his good. And we find out that she did, you know. But if I may, I'd also point out that sending Yo to hell here and being attacked when Yo is most noble, like vulnerable, is a really interesting parallel to the way that Yo is planning on taking out Hao, which is like Yo is going into a sleep of which when he comes out he would become a god tier shaman, and he's doing this to become powerful enough to do the same thing to Hao, which is when Hao comes out of his like sleep, and become like where he would come out and become the Shaman King. He would come out ready to become the Shaman King, and it's during that sleep that Yo plans to attack House. So as crappy as it seems that like they're doing this attack on Yo right now when he's at his most vulnerable and passed out, like it's exactly their strategy to take him out.
Interesting. I never thought about that parallel. I guess well, you already said that, she stabs Yo through the heart, sends him, well, not through the heart, but through the stomach, or whatever he stabs her, and sends him straight
Yeah.
to hell. Interesting context there is like he sends him straight to hell. It's not even like a hot minute where he's somewhere else. He just gets sent straight to hell.
I've always said if women kill me, I don't mind dying, but I wouldn't. I always hope that I don't go straight to hell, but I guess that's kind of where I'm headed. I mean, you know me. You know I'm probably going straight there. What do you think?
I'm just gonna plead the fifth, and we're gonna move
Do
on.
not pass go, do not collect $200 kind of scenario. Probably my fate.
Well, we're gonna move on. I had no comments. I guess I guess this happens after. I guess we go back to the situation with Dingbat and Hao, because Hao didn't kill him yet. This is here we learn that like Hao apparently has been around everywhere for whatever reason. He's in his spiritual form. He's been around everywhere, wherever there's been like destruction by humanity. He's been there, which is what led him to his whole hatred towards mankind situation. Apparently, we learned that Dingbat had a plan all along, and he had apparently sent his angel out to space as a false satellite to send out a really strong, I guess, laser attack that was supposed to kill Hao. Again, they like using weaponry to try to hit this guy for whatever reason. The angel apparently Dingbat has is Raphael, the god of fire, who art in heaven. Which I guess is kind of interesting that he is in fact in space, where technically speaking, in this sense of the word, sense of the phrase, he is technically out, in heaven. He's out in space.
So there's only two gods that are mentioned in the Bible: Gabriel and Michael. And then there's a third god that is not mentioned in the Bible, but it's mentioned in the Quran. Third angel that's not mentioned in the Bible, but it's mentioned in the Quran. It lines up with stories in the Bible enough where it's generally understood that angel is mentioned in the Bible, just not by name, and that is Raphael. So Raphael is like the unnamed angel in the Bible that they've decided is named, just not by name in the Bible. Which makes sense because the Bible itself is actually a compilation of holy books. It's not, God didn't come down and say, here is my Bible. It was actually built by the church from a list of holy books they had, and there was actually a period where they voted on which holy books were going to consist of the Bible, and there was a set of them that they voted on that kind of had overwhelming vote. They were yes, these are absolutely the ones that are pretty unanimous. But there were some books that had strong votes, just not overwhelming votes like the ones that actually went in the Bible were. So they were holy books. They could have been potentially in the Bible had the votes going a little differently, theoretically. So there are books that you can reference to supplement biblical works if you're trying to figure out what certain things mean. And the Quran in this case was used to identify Raphael and then connect it with stories in the Bible and understand what they were talking about. So Raphael is not mentioned in the Bible, but he's generally understood to be in the Bible. But in the Bible, he's generally understood to be a healer angel. And it's so X-Laws to make him the god of fire and destruction, because that's exactly the opposite of what he actually is. And that is very in keeping with the slightly twisted nature of the X-Laws in general, that they just take everything and make it violent and angry and destructive in their quest to be, holy or whatever they think they are.
So Raphael generally is understood to be a healer. I only say this because, in the show Supernatural, that, Supernatural for a lot of people it's a show that like it's a very divisive show. I say divisive mainly in the fandom. Supernatural is a 15 season long show. I'm not gonna spoil much on it. I'm gonna bring out what I want that has to deal with Raphael. But it's a very divisive show. Within the first 5 seasons, they had an entire like plot and everything written out and just ready to go. Um, Raphael is in it, and he is not a healer angel. He's actually one of the angels that is trying to bring the end of the world.
Well, I don't know what to tell you because he is, at least in Christian religions, he is considered a healer.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I find you say it's it's kind of funny that they do that to him here. I was like they do it to him in another fictitious work.
Interesting.
That's interesting. I did not know he was referred to as a healer angel.
Yeah.
Huh.
So I found it kind of interesting too. But he's not named directly in the Bible, but he's named in a lot of like books that tell the same stories, and it's enough. And like the Quran, for example, is pretty big. It's told enough of the stories where the stories are lined up perfectly that they're just like, okay, so this is, even though it's not literally said in the books that we compiled into the Bible, like it's clear that this is Gabrielle. I'm sorry, it's clear that this is Raphael. So they went with that. So, but yeah, it's just classic that like they're like Raphael, God of fire, blah blah blah, and like not even close. He was like healing waters and healing and miracle cures and stuff like that. He wasn't about that stuff at all. So anyway,
There's an attack that fails, and how like we don't know it fails yet. There's an attack, and we cut away.
Although you know what, you said that he was. You said in your book he was what again in yours? You had something about the coming of the second coming or something.
No, in the show Supernatural, like in the first 5 seasons, they had an entire plot, and it was pretty much about the apocalypse in the Bible. But in that one, they had Raphael. He was trying to help bring the apocalypse to fruition. There was
It's not so far from the truth because he's often portrayed as having his lips to the horn, waiting to blow it to announce the day of resurrection, which would be the second coming, which is the apocalypse. But he's waiting to announce it, not to like make it happen.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I don't know. Like, they've probably perverted Raphael's. Like, I mean, they probably perverted a lot of angels. Like, purposes for the purpose of the show, because a lot of angels that they use that have names from the Bible and whatnot, a lot of them don't do what they're. Only one kind of does what he's supposed to do, and it's Michelangelo. Is it Mike? That's not Michael.
Michelangelo is not an angel.
Yeah, I know Michael.
It's not like Gabriel, Michael.
Michael, sorry, Michael.
He's just like the unnamed angel that's actually.
Michael's. Yeah, Michael's the only one in the entire flock of angels they have in that show that does kind of what he's supposed to do in the Bible, which is that he's like the one closest to God. But I'm not saying like he's the only one that does technically what he's supposed to do from the Bible when he transferred him into the show. Yeah. Everybody else kind of just like went and did their own thing.
That's fine.
I mean, if you ever want to watch that show, you can. I didn't spoil much of anything. So like,
you just ruined the whole show. I can't.
I think I've only ruined like maybe 5 seasons. There's like 15.
Oh, only 5 seasons.
There's like 15 episodes. There's like 15 seasons. I think I only ruined like 5.
We just finished season 6 of Arrow. We only have 1 season and 10 episodes. Season 8 is only 10 episodes, and we're done.
Oh.
Anyway, just letting you know, we're almost done with the whole thing.
Well, if you want to watch Supernatural, some of the actors that. Not a lot of them, but the chick that played Huntress, she was in Supernatural. She had an episode or 2. I don't know. Like, I didn't like her. I didn't like her in Hunter. I mean, I didn't like her in Arrow. I really didn't like her in Supernatural, but that's a personal problem. We cut away. Apparently, you know, you have Pinocchio looking dude. I don't know. Is that the next thing that happens?
Oh yeah.
Is that the next thing that happens? Is the Pinocchio dude? Wait a minute. I see the explosion. That hits Hal. We don't know if it like destroyed him or not. We cut away. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's the exact next thing that happens. That's kind of disjointed. We cut back to Marco's gang, and Marco gets stabbed through the heart from the well, actually, you see a light first, and then Marco gets stabbed through the heart from the front from the front of the building, I mean, from the front of the car. We see who looks to be this guy that apparently the maiden had a hand in killing. His little brother, show up. It's very, very random in my opinion how that kind of happens. We weren't expecting him at all, and like, wow, he just shows up out of nowhere. Gotta change the music here because apparently the music decided it's a good idea to switch to Pokemon all of a sudden. Sorry.
Can I get a little ahead of myself for a second here? Which guy? So in episode 42, and I know this is going to sound weird that I'm getting that far ahead of myself, but that guy that Yo fights in episode 42 summons a Tengu Goblin to help him. You remember that? And it's that big red guy with the long, weird nose.
What golem?
They call it a Tengu Goblin. It's at 255 of episode 42 that he summons it. I'm sorry to get ahead of myself, but I was wondering this when I saw this part, and I wanted to roll it past you a little too. I will grab you a screenshot so you see what I'm talking about. Hang on.
I mean, and how when Yo's fighting?
Yeah, hang on. I'll get you a screenshot of roughly what he looks like, and I'll drop it in Discord.
No, I don't think that there's any. I mean, there's almost uncanny, but I don't think there's any connection between him and that Tengu Goblin.
Just hear me out for a second. Do you see this thing with the nose and the bird wings?
Yeah.
So that's a Tengu Goblin. So I took the time to look it up, and in mythology, it has a lot of different forms that it appears in. And it can be somewhere between a large, monstrous bird and a wholly anthropomorphized being, often with a red face, and usually has a large, long nose. And usually when it's in human form, it's red. They go back all the way back to the 14th century, and when they have a long nose, it's usually a callback to the bird's bill from when it was a bird. And there's even a Unicode emoji that represents a Tengu. And if you look at the name of the emoji, it's called Japanese Goblin. So because of the parallels that we get between like the living world and the world of hell in this a lot, I was wondering if this was like a loose parallel, this guy with his big nose and how much they talk about his nose. I wonder if they were kind of like trying to make him like low-key, like kind of like a demon sort of like character, and if they were thinking like of making him sort of a Tengu Goblin kind of like character here, and the nose like would be understood in Japanese culture as being a reference to the Tengu Goblin with the long nose, like being more like we see it as Pinocchio and can't really see past it, but for them it would be seen as someone that used to be that's demonic, and the nose was like representative of a bird form. And like if you're a little bit more adult than that, like the bird nose is also sometimes like it started out as a beak and then it turned into this big nose, and then sometimes in festivals in Japan and stuff like that it's phallic. So I started to wonder how far they were taking this with this guy, like if it was like a low-key phallic symbol too, because there are so many phallic symbols in this series. So I know that's more of a stretch than I typically take, but I did think it was sort of interesting and fun to kind of follow. So I just wanted to throw it out there as like something worth thinking about.
I mean, I don't think so. I mean, maybe they could be using him as a goblin character, but
I mean, just sort of like alluding to it a little bit, since like they introduce the Tengu Goblin in the next one, and it's so common to Japanese like lore that like a Japanese person would recognize it. And then they have this guy with a long nose that just keeps going on and on and on about his brother has like a nose that's 3 centimeters longer, and it's like this running joke that his brother's nose was so beautiful and it's 3 centimeters longer and blah blah blah. But you know that we 3 centimeters longer sounds like a really 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 light, like PG rated, like possible penis joke when you
I
know
mean,
that the goblins
there
are
are
like,
there are PP jokes all over Japan and just all kinds of. I mean, it could be that, but I don't know if it's. I mean, it could be that for the most part. Probably more. I'm probably more leaning towards that. It's probably that, considering how many things have nuts hanging out. But I mean, possibly. I kind of want to talk about this. We're kind of uncomfortable.
it seemed like that's where they were kind of heading with it, and I wanted to throw that out there. Do you know what I mean? I know it's a weird, like I have to go in reverse to explain it to you. You know what I mean? And start with an episode ahead and then work my way back. But like, it seems like a really good reason for this guy to have a long nose, other than just being a Pinocchio reference. Which, because Pinocchio doesn't really have much of a. I mean, you can really stretch and say that it's sort of like a resurrection to have a boy made out of wood come to life. But it's not really like Shaman Kingy in the way that we think, especially when it's just a guy, you know? And he just happened, the only connection that we really have Pinocchio here is that he's got a long nose, not that he's a puppet master or anything like that, or he's brought anything to life, you know? So the more logical explanation is that maybe this was a parallel to the Tengu Goblin, and that there was the penis connection, and that's why he cares so much about 3 centimeters and, you know, all that stuff. That we're just missing the cultural jokes here, but if we dig, we can figure it out a little bit better.
I think his beard is a little bit longer than his nose. I'm not even gonna talk about that anymore. I think I'm kind of done.
Gosh. So anyway, I saw the opportunity to talk about a penis.
Yeah,
So I worked really really hard and did my research so that no penis joke would go unturned. How's your Twitch audience, by the way?
I mean, somebody dropped in, said hi, and then left, but that was like much earlier than your penis joke. Oh no, he's here.
Oh,
He's here, and he says hashtag phallic symbol.
Nice. Oh, I'd fist bump him if I could. He's a good person. They're a good person. I shouldn't assume gender.
That really just threw me off here. I don't even. I'm trying to get back to that point in episode 41.
Sorry.
I guess we could just move on from there. I mean, he shows up. First, Lyserg and the gang get Lyserg gets killed. Marco ends up getting killed, and then revived all in 1 second. And I think Maiden got killed. I think, based on the way they were treating her, like her body, she might have been killed. Speaking of a lot of death in this episode, people are just dying, going straight to hell a lot in this entire series.
Mm-hmm.
We go back to Yo going to hell, and he sees that he's in hell. He's shocked by it, and then the demon that you decide to sarcastically reveal is going to show up in the series from the flashback. The Omni that they had to stop from Anna's temper tantrum is apparently down here in hell.
And
but
he calls Anna Mama now.
But not just that, he apparently has been talking to Sati.
Yeah. And Anna's mommy. How's mommy doing?
Also, I want to point out your whole penis jokes thing. This guy's got a mustache.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you can tell, but look, he's got this rapist mustache.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry, I can't unsee it. It's like it's there.
Way to win the race to the bottom, Jeremy.
Listen here. We were at the bottom. You already made penis jokes.
You just found a new bot. You came with a I went to the bottom. You came to the bottom and brought a shovel. That's all I'm saying.
But yeah, he asked him. He at first tells Yo that in order people come down here to train to become God class shaman. So we now know how you become one. As for the significance, I don't really know. Other than the fact that
I feel
apparently
like this demon. Did this demon make you think of Deborah at all, or is it just me?
I didn't think about Deborah, but I thought about like King Yema from Dragon Ball Z. So there was
Speaking of Deborah, do you remember the scene of Deborah in the afterlife when all of a sudden he's like sweet and wholesome?
I can see the similarities there, but Deborah though, I mean we gotta keep reminded that Deborah was sent to heaven because he would have enjoyed hell, so that's why he turned out the way he did.
Well, he enjoyed heaven too, apparently.
Well, heaven converted him apparently. I think he got cleansed. He had that cleansing machine up there for whatever reason. It only failed once, by the way, and it failed in a movie.
Didn't work on Frieza.
I don't know if he tried to put Frieza to that thing. Actually, I don't know where he put Frieza because I don't think he was put in heaven or hell. He was put in heaven. He was just tied to a tree. Never mind. But Yo ends up going through the gates of hell, and he ends up. I guess the first door, his first trial, is gonna be fighting. Fighting through the gates to get stronger. And apparently, the first person he ends up fighting is the spirit of Yoken, one of his ancestors from the Shaman fight 500 years ago. Apparently, Yoken's soul is stuck down here, and he still thinks he's still fighting for the Shaman King tournament that was 500 years ago. I thought that was intriguing that he was here, apparently.
It sounded pretty classic, like an afterlife, like when you just kind of like completely lost your way.
It was odd. I didn't expect to see that. I mean, I didn't expect to see Yoken here. Well, I mean, he brought up his name a couple of times, but I didn't think he was going to be important. We also see that apparently Yoken is using his Oversoul Demon Slayer, which is Koth, a slight callback to Montemune, who actually we see Montemune again, like hiding from Yo in the back there somewhere. Yo thought he sensed him, but he just thought maybe he was just seeing things. We also learned that apparently Yo is in the spirit form, which makes sense. He's a spirit here, and he's learning the ropes down here. He gets hit by Yoken, and his arms turn to skeletons, which is probably the most like
random.
I guess I mean yeah, random, but like probably the most vivid injury we've ever seen him take. It didn't include blood, but Yoken gets bored and he just walks off saying this isn't interesting anymore. That's when Yo realizes that, if he has the will, he can do anything he wants down here. He even use an oversoul that he probably didn't have the ability to use before.
I was reminded in the Matrix at this moment.
Enlighten us for the people who have not seen the Matrix.
If I enlighten you, I'm going to ruin the movie for you.
Okay, we'll just move on then.
I'll ruin the climax of the movie for you but it reminded me of the Matrix movie. You should watch it sometime if you haven't seen it. But basically, the power of your will was a big factor in the Matrix.
I almost said also being Liam Neeson also was a big climax of it, but that Liam Neeson wasn't in there.
What?
I know. I just thought with the words Liam Neeson, I wanted to slide that in there somewhere, but I failed at it, so don't mind me.
Okay.
But yeah, as the episode is coming to the close, we see Yo's new Oversoul, and it is the Oversoul we saw him have in the intro. So Oversouls are starting to become robot parts now. I don't know how I feel about that.
The Oversouls are becoming part of what?
Oversouls are becoming robot parts. They seem they seem like robotic in nature now when they get more powerful.
Mm-hmm.
At least they get sleek and everything like that. They don't seem like regular souls anymore. Actually, they said they're coming down here to train, so they can become God class shaman. What happens to the spirits that go through this training too? I was thinking, like, well, does that mean the Minamara is gonna become a Godclash spirit, or does that know how that works? I guess we'll take that episode to episode 40. We'll take the question to episode 42. We're finally gonna talk about the final episode of this triple header.
Not sure, Jeremy.
And
Sorry.
no
Did
problem.
we talk about the Oversoul, the Spirit of Sword Bayaku?
I premise that, like, the episode kind of ends with Yo revealing his new Oversoul, which is the robot, this Oversoul being robotic. Is what my comment was about.
Oh, that's what you meant by that. I'm sorry. I missed it because I was looking at my notes. And I didn't get the robot thing because it's a swan. Like, it means Bayaku. Bayaku is the references. I'm sorry, not the swan, the white tiger. It's known as Baihu, which is one of the 4 symbols of the Chinese constellations. It's sometimes called the white tiger of the west. It represents the west in terms of the direction in the autumn season. It's known as Byaku in Japanese, Baihu in Chinese, and Baiko in Korean. And I was interested in that because I was trying to, like, they mentioned so many animals in this. They mention a swan. They mention snakes at one point. Where someone threatens somebody with snakes. There's a lot of different animals mentioned. And I was trying to bring those up and see if there were references Zodiac or something. And I couldn't find anything that united all the animals mentioned into one thing. But I just kept finding these different animals referenced, and I couldn't pull them all together into one concept. I'm really interested in why. But it might be robotic to you, but when I looked it up to see what it was a reference to, it was a reference to a white tiger. The only other thing about white tiger, I believe, that I remember was is it's connected to age. Remember I told you a lot of this stuff seems to be connected to the age of something? In Chinese culture, the tiger is the king of the beasts. And a tiger's tail turns white when it reaches the ages of 500 years. And that way, the white tiger becomes a kind of mythological creature. So, if you see a white tiger, like, you can assume that it's 500 years old. And, you know, the age in this mythology, like, just becoming 100 years old makes you powerful. So being 500 years old makes you much more powerful, and it seems like another benchmark is 1,000. If you become 1,000 years old, that is another major age benchmark. But I thought that was interesting. A white tiger also symbolizes power and army. It's also, like, really sought after by sorry, I think it's along with, like, being mythological and someone, like, there being a history of people worshiping white tiger gods. I believe it's also sought after by emperors and things like that, but I'm not able to find a reference to that to confirm right now.
Makes sense.
But a lot of things in ancient times were named after a white tiger when they were related to the army and military affairs. So naming an attack after a white tiger would make it sort of a military style attack. So I thought that was interesting that, like, his attack is military in tone. You know what I mean? To say that it's a white tiger attack means that, like, it's an army style attack.
Well, it makes sense. No,
I thought that was cool, that's all. I just wanted to throw that out there as a really cool piece of research I came across. I looked up every single thing I could find. Like, some of the stuff I looked up didn't have much back. Like Dingbat, I looked up and it was just like, oh, that's like a reference to typesetting. And I was like, oh, so it's nothing. But stuff like that I thought added a lot of depth to what we were looking at.
That's a problem. I guess we're back. We're episode 42 now. We're back at the Tengu thing you brought up. Essentially, like, Yo's, like, ancestor brings up transforms into a Tengu, which is what I thought would happen there. And Montemoon is in the background and decides to depart because he fears he's gonna get stuck, I guess, reliving past memories, like his previous master was like. I guess his previous master was stuck here. I guess feeling sorry, because we're learning now like trying to defeat Hao is not the right way to do this.
He's not in direct combat while he's awake.
What?
Defeating Hao in direct combat while he's awake does not seem to be a very logical strategy. Is that what you're suggesting?
I'm just saying, like, anybody who tries to attack and just defeat Hao always ends up regretting it, apparently.
Yeah.
Not physically, just like mentally, they're not able to cope with it. Masamune had that problem, and it seems like Yoken here is having the exact same problem.
Right.
I guess the whole like Yo's oversoul, he named it the Swan because it was a childhood memory from his father, apparently. Which I thought was also weird. I don't think we ever seen Yo say anything that he hung out with his father, but I guess it makes sense.
Now, swans in Japan are symbolized as protectors, but there's a legend that's very popular in Japan where a swan descended from heaven in order to protect a young boy. So, it's funny because I actually read that legend to Grayson about a week ago, and then I watched this episode and I remembered the legend where a swan does protect a little boy. And I've read in the children's book that was an adaptation of that legend.
Serendipity.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. How did you feel about the way that Masamune left?
I was very disappointed.
Why?
I honestly thought he was gonna come back. And
the train. Did you like the train?
When he left, I mean, I read your notes about that, but I don't remember. I feel like I remember you telling me something about this, but I don't remember too much about like the reference this is this is referencing, like Night on the Galactic
He
Railroad.
summons a train. Like he looks up and there's a train, and he gets on the train that flies overhead. And I've been wondering about this train because I've seen it in so many different animes. Like Miyazaki uses a train constantly to Spirited Away and some other things. And there's been other types of trains that I've seen, and there's been other animes that have been very, very many very high quality animes have used trains as passages from the spirit world to the living world. So I finally was like, there's got to be some connection. This can't just be a thing that they do in animes that has no connection. So I looked into some research, and I found out that there was a classic fantasy novel from 1934 called Night on the Galactic Railroad, and that it comes up a lot in Japanese culture, and it's actually adapted in plays and musicals and things like that, and there was an anime adapted to the same name. And it's not always called Night on the Galactic Railroad. There's it's a translation, obviously, of what they use, so there's some other variants of the translation too. But that's the most common one that I came across. But in it is this sort of channel that the descriptions I read of it were kind of convoluted, but it's about a little boy that and his friend that get on the train. They have a tough time at school, I think with bullies or something like that, and they get on the train and they travel through the stars. And then the next day when they go through the whole story is about them traveling through the stars, and the next day when he goes to school, his friend that had traveled with him isn't there, and he knows what happens. He knows he stayed on the train, and he wishes him the best, and that's kind of the end of the story. But
that's kind of what haphazardly happened with Yo.
Kind of, yeah. But the story comes up a lot, and I think there was even a connection to a river in it or something like that, which really made me think of Spirited Away with the dragon. But I try not to focus on that too much because I wanted to get the research done for this. But it really answered a lot of questions for me. Night of the Galactic Railroad is the source of all these trains that we see. The source of inspiration and culture, cultural foundation for all these trains that we see in anime. So it kind of makes me want to look up that old 1980. I know it's 1985, but it kind of makes me want to look at that old anime and watch it just to get the proper education. You know what I mean on anime history to see what it's all about. But anyway, I thought that was cool to finally know what those train references are constantly. Going back over to the Swan. knowing that swans are symbols of protectors and seeing that Yo used the swan in a defensive move where the swan catches the sword and blocks it, I thought was really cool to like. So the swan like catches the sword in its mouth, in the move that he used.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought that was really cool because of the fact specifically that swans are in Japanese like culture are seen as protectors, and that's exactly what the swan did there. It protected a young boy. Anyway, again, like there's so many little rich pieces of mythology that are just hidden in this that like are so missable if you don't do the research to look into this. And I've been really like impressed by how deep the rabbit hole constantly is in this if we just look into it.
I guess speaking of rabbit holes or weasel holes, after all that, Yokin is impressed, and I guess just I've been hearing and I've been listening. I've been listening through all what Yokin, at least a lot of like when there's a lot of attacks. I've been listening to the Japanese because I've been hearing lots of jitsu, and it's been very weird. And also, this is just gonna just feed into the whole Naruto thing, but I guess I'll feed into it this time and this time only. Um, he's making a lot of they're making a lot of hand signs and the special powers being popping up from those hand signs. For whatever reason, there seems to be some connections with like special spiritual attacks that invoke that have you invoking symbols and whatnot. But one of them is actually the Weasel Whirlwind Slash, which I didn't know it was a weasel. And thankfully, because you wrote it down here, now I know that attack was a weasel. I did not know that.
Oh, really?
So what?
Okay.
Like I mean, like because I did not know that was a weasel. It was one of the attacks that he used on Yo. And apparently, as like I guess this is like Japanese mythology or just mythology in general. Like here is that as a train passes the flame of Scorpio, Koro recalls that it was once a scorpion who ate other
So
insects.
let me give some context to what
Yeah,
you're reading.
please. Yeah, please.
This is part of the description of the Galactic Railroad.
Oh.
This little passage is part of the description of the Galactic Railroad. I only mention it because it mentions a weasel like seconds after the reference to the Galactic Railroad where Masamune gets on it. And I thought it was interesting as sort of like, this is like probably the biggest stretch out of any of the research I did. But they're on the train, and as it's going through the galaxy and it goes past the Flame of Scorpio, which is one of the constellations, Karu, which is the main character from the Galactic Railroad, remembers that it was once a scorpion that ate other insects but perished in a well after escaping a weasel. Regretting that it didn't sacrifice itself for a good cause, the scorpion prayed to bring happiness to others in the next life, and its body burst into a bright flame that still burns in the night sky, and that's how the Flame of Scorpio became part of the constellation. I thought it was interesting that like this whole thing here, he's using a Weasel Whirlwind Slash, and that's what he used on how to defeat him. And how, like, if you think about that and you think you get really deep here and you go deep into the realm of headcanon, and you think of how is a scorpion that escaped the Weasel Whirlwind Slash and perished in a well, but didn't sacrifice itself for a good cause. You know what I mean? Like, it's sort of a weird little, like, I don't know if this is like a huge stretch or if it's foreshadowing or if it's like sort of a sad reference or what. But like, why the hell else would his attack be Weasel Whirlwind Slash unless it was a further reference to Galactic Railroad? And it just seems like really interesting food for thought that this was like. And I wonder if we were to watch the anime, The Night of the Galactic Railroad, if we'd understand this reference better, or if it even is a reference. But the fact that he's like tells the story, like makes up the story for the anime of a scorpion that ate other insects, tried to escape a weasel and perished in a well, regretting that it didn't sacrifice itself for a good cause. And then it prayed to bring happiness to others in its next life. And its body burst into a bright flame that burns in the night sky. I didn't know if this was like some sort of foreshadowing or a sad story of what how could be, or if it was just sort of a tease, you know what I mean? Or just not even like, or if I'm just digging way too deep here. But I couldn't not mention it just because it seemed like such interesting food for thought.
I guess continuing this food for thought, you also dig into the whole weasel thing.
Yeah.
I did not know weasels could be seen as yokai. Specifically here, you're feeding to the whole like age is an important factor here. Also, I guess before I get into that, you bring up that in collections of the depictions, I guess, of weasel or things that
Mhm.
involve weasel, the Gazu, Yaki, yeah, I'm gonna butcher this entire thing, and I've already done it. Agyo by Seiken Toriyama. They're depicted under that title. I can't read that kanji, but the kanji that you show here was not meant to be read as a tachi, but rather as 10. I don't know what that bracket supposed to be, unless you just copy pasted it and that's what came with it. With that 11 in it.
I copy and pasted it.
Okay, so it means nothing. Okay, I just want to make sure. I wasn't sure. I didn't want to take something in that use all of it, but and 10 were considered to be weasels that had reached 100 years of age and became yokai that possessed supernatural powers. It's kind of funny because you kind of could consider how a weasel, quote unquote, not really a weasel, but like he's reached a certain amount of it. He's reached a certain age in his years of being dead now, and he has possessed supernatural powers. Um,
Mhm.
and they're more powerful because he's much older. Uh, in an interesting way. Like I guess something's gonna go on with how bursting into flames though. There's that little scene with him with what appears to be his oversoul, and it's red. Plus, his spirit is also the spirit of fire. So take that with what you will.
Where
Maybe
do
he
we
will
see the
burst into
spirit of
flames.
fire?
Hmm?
Oh
Howl's
yeah.
spirit is the spirit of fire. That's his partner.
Isn't that interesting too? That like Hal has a spirit of fire, but they called Raphael the god of fire.
Hmm.
Um, I know that's a stretch, but it's interesting that they tried to use a quote unquote god of fire, which isn't even a god of fire, to defeat the spirit of fire, like the master of the spirit of fire. It
As
wouldn't
the
have been
whirlwind
my.
slash is used on yo. Oh, sorry. I didn't know you were. I wasn't sure you were done on that.
It's okay. It wouldn't have been my strategy to take someone with a powerful fire spirit and try to kill them with a bunch of fire.
I mean, that's kind of what he's been doing this entire show.
Mm-hmm.
um, After the whirlwind slash, Yo defends with his attack of the Misa style non Avija. I butchered that.
I got you.
Um, Apparently this is also Buddhism in some way, which is odd. Avija, is Sanskrit. Oh, okay. In Buddhist
Couldn't get
literature
a lot
is.
from this. I'm sorry to cut in. I couldn't get a lot from this, but there, when I when I researched it, Amisa, I'm sorry, Amisa style, Avija is, I don't know what Na does to Avija, but Avija is commonly translated as ignorance or misconceptions about nature, and it's the root cause of suffering and pain and unsatisfactory. But I don't know what Na does to that. I don't know how that turns the word around. Um, so I don't know. This word could mean anything, but the root of it is connected to ignorance and the process that leads to repeated birth. And the only reason I brought it up at all is because there is that repeated birth and resurrection that just seems to be the nonstop theme of these two episodes. Just everywhere you look, anytime you dig into something, it's nonstop talking about resurrection in this part. So I just wanted to mention it. I don't really have anything 100% here, but I was super curious if, like, I don't know if there was anybody in your listeners or in the chat or anything like that that had any familiarity with what NA dash would do to that word. I was hoping that they could maybe explain it because my research didn't get that deep into it. But I'm super curious what that does and what that's. It's a unique thing. Like, it's not on the internet to be VJ. If you look for it, you just get Shaman King fandom. But I'm curious what that does to the original root there, because the original root is a major Buddhist phrase. So I wanted to know because there's something there. I just don't know what it is.
Well, we have any Indian viewers. You heard the man. Okay.
Well,
'Cause
podcasts,
hmm?
stuff like that too. YouTube people, anybody that
What?
knows, if they let us know, I would definitely want to hear it on a personal level. We could definitely include it in the next episode as like an amendment to what we've been talking about, because I would love to know personally.
I guess for now, like after he defends the attack, I should go back to the episode real quick to see. Oh yeah, we also learned. Okay, now this is the part of the episode we learn more about like the legendary warriors and the abilities that well, legendary warriors and then the spirits that apparently we now know they have to collect all the spirits, including the one that Hao was using to defeat him. We learned that they're all going to hell to train and then get access to these spirits. But they're also going to need to wait for Hao to go into sleep mode to gain access to the spirit of fire. That apparently that once he goes to sleep, he will lose control over. Like that seems like a major design flaw that I think Hao would have really been trying to keep his hand on. That he like the moment he goes to sleep, that's when he loses control over the spirit of fire.
You mean the flame of Scorpio? No.
I mean, if you want to call it that.
That bursts into a flame in the night sky.
You're gonna keep on repeating it, aren't you? Until you see it happen.
No, there's something to that. I just want to know what it is. That's all.
But yeah, we learned the point of the spirits, the point of the training of them dying and going to hell, because like now at this point, Ren and Chocolove get sent. Well, later on they get sent. They get killed again, and Chocolove gets sent back to hell, which is kind of funny. Like Chocolove dies one time, goes there, and then comes back, and now he gets sent back to it. He's been there twice now. As this is happening, one of the patch officiants is like, I guess, eavesdropping. Again, I still don't understand the patch officiants too much. I mean, I understand they gotta be neutral, but they seem to be very hardcore trying to defend Hao. I'm guessing is what we're really getting here now, is that each one of them is going to be a problem. They also seem to be really strong too. We don't know how strong, but the patch that's here that's like warning Sati about what she's doing. She's like, you know what we can do, which is a very interesting way of like threatening her. Like, what we know, you know what we could do. It was like, okay. As he's walking off, Hao's like goon squad shows up, stabs Sati in the back, and pretty much she dies, as far as we know. Fortunately, because of Jock's little lecture earlier, we now know that she's probably gonna get revived. if the story involving her and Shiva is to be believed. So, I thought it was kind of weird though when she first did die. Without you saying that, I thought it was kind of weird that they have her die so early. Now that you mentioned that story, I was like, oh, okay, maybe that explains it. Because he even explains that woman in white at the end of the intro that we were so confused about what's going on there.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of that kind of gets explained. That's kind of funny too. She's wearing a wedding dress.
I hope that's what it is.
Huh?
I hope that's what it is.
She could be wearing a wedding dress. I had no idea what's happening. Also kind of funny. I mean, I'm not saying this is what that is, what her spirit is, but what if her spirit is Shiva?
That would be awkward because Shiva's a male, but I wouldn't put it past this anime.
Well, I mean, Sati is a woman.
Right. But Shiva is a male.
Yeah, that wouldn't be awkward because, like, male and women. What are you getting at?
What am I getting at?
Yeah, I feel like I'm missing something.
In the mythology, Sati married Shiva, and Shiva is a male.
I'm pretty sure her spirit is male. Is it?
Sati is a female in mythology.
Yeah, and Sati is the woman I was talking about, the human woman that got stabbed in the back.
Okay, so what are we talking about here?
I think it's the one that got lost in translation. It was kind of late, so it's probably what's actually happening. Um, so actually, I guess to speed this up.
Concluded that you're an incorrect and bad person.
No, you're just stuck on Legos.
Oh my god, we're gonna go back to that. We're gonna go back to Lego fists. That's what you want to talk about.
No, actually, I just kind of want to continue. So a
You
part of
make
it's
me
my
so
fault,
mad,
but you know,
Jeremy. You make me so mad.
I think that's about it. What the I mean, if she gets stabbed in the back, she dies. How then shows up out of nowhere, pretty much saying that everybody that can revive you has been killed. He, they bring up Faust, but they don't. The thing is, with like you and me assume that the Faust they're talking about is the Faust that's in the wheelchair, which I mean would make sense. But at the same time, like I mean, we're talking about dead spirits and stuff like that, and in the spirit world, like who's to say that the Faust that is his ancestor isn't the one they're talking about?
You yourself mentioned earlier that Faust had already hinted that he might be able to bring people back.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm kind of confused because, like, I mean, I think when they say Faust, I'm trying to figure out because we've been going to the spirit world and coming out of it. Normally, I wouldn't have a problem with the wording, but it's like we've been in the spirit world and coming back out. Could they be referring to the spirit Faust or talking about the human Faust? Because I don't think we've seen Faust the human get killed yet.
No,
I
we
know, I
haven't,
know,
but
I know the Goon Squad is there right now, so I mean, I guess it's
didn't
assumed.
they think Faust was dead? I mean, or Faust is Faust at the very least is in a lot of trouble right now.
I mean, I guess how it thinks that his lackeys have killed him. I guess by this point.
Faust is the last hope. He's the last person with any ability to resurrect that's alive.
I guess maybe I guess he assumed he's been killed. But I mean, yeah, they bring up the fact that like Faust has the ability to heal, or I think he said he awoke the ability to revive people, which is like interesting. I wonder like if there's more to Faust than we now know right now. That he can just wake the ability to revive somebody.
Well, you mentioned yourself that they floated the idea that he might be able to do that.
I mean, he's not one of like the five warriors, because we now know the five warriors that they're talking about is Yo, Rin, Horo, Chocolove, and Lyserg. Well, I guess I forgot to mention, Lyserg ends up getting killed, and he's fighting his own little hell trial in the background.
Horo, Chocolove, and Lyserg are 3 people, though. What are the other 2?
Yo, Rin, Horo, Chocolove, Lyserg. Yo is one of them, Rin is one of them, Horo is one of them, Chocolove is one of them, and Lyserg is one of them.
Okay.
The people that are supposed to be the spirits are all now dead right now doing their training. Those are the 5 spirits. Those are the 5 warriors. They've all been chosen, and by that I mean they've been killed. Funnily though, Lyser got killed not by somebody from Gandhara. He was just in a bad spot at the wrong time.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, that's his deal. I guess he's gonna come out of that trial knowing what he wants to do now, because he's like,
kill Ren that he's not one of the candidates. It's gotta kill Ren that he's not one of the candidates.
Ren is one of the candidates.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry.
What?
What?
Okay, I think he just said that to get me to say that. Okay, we're gonna move on. I don't know much more to move on. Actually, with these notes down here, let's see if there's anything that I haven't said. Oh well, with that, I guess with that Tengu looking dude, I guess like that's where House shows up. House shows up like Tomo was about to fight the guy with the long nose, with the not so long nose, and House shows up to save him. And pretty much confirms, says that everybody is dead. You have no hope of stopping me. I am the king. I don't got much to say.
Everyone else been defeated, not knowing about Faust.
But I think he knows about Faust because I think he says that the Faust guy is dead too. I think is what he says.
But Faust isn't dead yet.
He comments on Faust being dead. Hold up.
But he's not dead.
I just want to real quick to see what House says about that. House says something specific. Either I misinterpreted him saying that Howe thinks he's dead, or you know. I guess I want to bring it to like how Marco dies and comes back really quickly and gains a power boost. I guess that makes him stronger, like suddenly stronger.
Hey guys. Well, he did almost die, and then Maiden did bring him back. So that's fair that he has a Zenkai boost.
Because he brings up that he wants him to, that guy to bring him to Sati. Sati's been confirmed to be dead now. How just showed up with the intro, with the exit, with the outro just playing. 9-5 warriors. How Sama showed up and the little. Let's see here. Oh, his name is Anahol. I completely blanked on his name. Jeez. The guy in the yellow suit. I'm sure because no one can come back to life anymore. I understand how you feel, Marco. I'm here because I'm homeless at the moment. Oh yeah, his base got blown up. He seems really pissed off about that too. He doesn't have a place to stay.
Yeah. The next episode's name isn't the end of a dream is not very hopeful based on the fact
resurrections are possible.
What?
No, I'm just like reading here. Apparently somebody named Faust mastered it. Oh, he doesn't say he's dead. But this Faust is in the same place that Sati is. I guess why I assumed that that meant Faust. He thought Faust was dead. He says that this Faust is in the same spot that Sati is right now. We know that he didn't get stabbed though, because he was in a wheelchair. I'm very confused. Maybe Hal thinks that he's dead and he's not dead. I don't know. What were you saying? Oh, at the end of the dream.
Like Marco says, he'll not let them win, and there's still hope. And I just find that turnabout really sad. He's like, "I'll never give hope. We'll not let them win. There's still hope." Next episode, the end of a dream. Just like, okay, so next episode, Marco was wrong.
I don't think that means that. I mean, it could be.
Narrator voice, but there never was hope for Marco. It's just so dismal. I'm sorry, but it just seemed like it really shut down Marco, like going, "We'll never lose hope," and then it's just like, "But there never was." And then Marco had to give up forever.
Well, we now know how you feel about Marco. Well, we always know how you feel about Marco, but dang it.
He's not my favorite.
Yeah, you mentioned that several times, actually. Okay, I guess with that is the last bit of, that's the last bit of the episode. We're bouncing all over, but I think we got our point across. I guess the next episodes we're reviewing are the end of a dream and whatever falls the end of a dream. If anything falls in the end of a dream. I guess with that, we're going to end it here. It's like 12 o'clock my time, probably a little bit later for you. Actually, no, you're the same time, so like I know you're probably slowly crashing.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to end it here, guys. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.